All right, so we shall proceed. And here I am in my VS Code. So let me just, I'm in my VS Code. I'm opening my file tree, and then what I'm going to do is I'll create a new file and call it icons.html. Then let me bring my basic HTML boilerplate as we usually do. Then I'm going to working with um, icons. All right, and then the next thing I'm going to do is create the style. So I'm going to do it icons.css. All right, and it's pretty basic. There are different ways by which we can actually have icons in our project. All right, and one way would be to download the icons, the PNG format of the icons, and then import them as images. All right, so when I can go like phone icon, then I can pick any of these icons which they come in JPEG, and but mostly they are in SVG or PNG, and then we can work with them. You want to go with the PNG, that is if you are going with what do you call it, with the images, all right. But then there has been a better way to introduce icons in website design projects, and we're going to be looking at that. What we're going to do is we're going to depend on a font library, all right, called Font Awesome. Font Awesome, and most of you probably have come across Font Awesome. They have a collection of pretty nice icons which we will use in our project, and almost most websites which we visit today are actually filled with Font Awesome icons. All right, so we'll be coming back to this website just in a moment. Then there is another font library which we'll be using as well, which is Box Icon, which it's also another great font library. And most of the time we go with these two. There are other font libraries out there. Um, sorry, icon libraries. I was saying font libraries. They are font libraries, but they are icon libraries. That's what it's supposed to be called. We have those flat icons and a whole lot of other icon libraries. Very sorry for the mistake again, which we can use in our projects. All right, but most of the time, what we usually go with is the font awesome and then the box icons, and we are going to look at how to go about it right now. All right, so in my web project, there are actually two ways to do this. All right, just like you can have an image in your project folder, that way you can also do what, you can have a font awesome. You can download the font awesome library or the project, put it in your project, and then you can link to it. All right, so we're going to look at how to go about both ways. The other way will be to link it via a CDN. All right, so I'm going to Google and then I'll search font awesome CDN. All right, then what I'm gonna do is let me use the CDNJS library over here, and then I can just copy this. So the very first one is what? When you're on the site, you should see that it's ending with .css. So I'm just gonna copy that one. There are other ones over here, and I'm going to explain those things in brief. Then we move on. All right. So inside my HTML file, I can just come and then create a style sheet link. So I can go to link rel equals what, style sheet, then href equals, then I'm going to paste my link over there and then close it. All right, and then I can now use font awesome icons in my project. Then I can, another way would be to import it in the CSS file. All right, so I have now removed this. Then I can come back into my CSS file. All right, then I'm going to import, then I'm going to put the link over there. All right, so it's working. Let's try, and we're actually going to be building some projects. We'll be building some rough projects along the way. Then we see how well we'll be able to apply those icons and stuff. And then for that, let me just come to my typography CSS which we created the other day and copy my basic. styling, the CSS reset, then the font and everything which I will be needing. So you realize that I'm importing external resources. I'm doing that at the very top. Anytime you're exporting resources into your project files, make sure you import them early so that when you call on those properties, they're going to be available for use. Then also, it's going to help you to get the stylings right. Sometimes there's a conflicting style in the resource you are importing, and so you realize that you'll be importing you apply a particular style and it's not going to reflect on your page, and it could be because of such reasons. So when you are importing, you do that at the very top. So I have that over here, and then to actually use an icon, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create what an eye element. All right. So I create an eye element, then I go to class, and for font awesome they have a special way by which they declare. So I'm going to give it a class of what fa, then I'm going to give it another dash fa again, then I can give it what user, and I'm just going to close, and I have my live server running. So let me just do this and go back here, and nothing is happening on our page. All right, working with icons, this is supposed to happen. This is not supposed it's supposed to work. We have a font imported. We have okay. The mistake is I have applied the um, I've imported the font awesome file into the CSS, but I haven't linked to that particular CSS file, right? So now let me link to that particular CSS file. Suppose I have this running. If I haven't commented this, then we'll see our icon working here for us, all right? But since I took this off, it's not working. So I have to link to the CSS file before it will work. And so icons, let's see, is this, I think that's what I named it. And now we have our icon working there for us. Somebody raised a hand. Yeah, Ferdinand, you had a hand raised. You can ask your question. Ferdinand.
Some mistake, please.
All right, that's fine. So when you come onto the Font Awesome library, when you come onto the Font Awesome library, they have millions of icons which you can use. All right. So when you come, you can just search for a particular icon. All right. So you can see that you have lots of icons over here. Based on whatever you want to put in your project, you just click on it, and then you get a code which you want to copy. So working with icons is pretty simple. You just have to click on it and copy it, and then you're going to what put it over there. When you go back to your project folder, you realize that your icons will begin to show. So all that will be left will come to your CSS and then apply whatever stylings you want to apply to your icons. All right, so let's just do something real quick and see. I don't know if anybody's confused so far. Somebody's confused. Wow. All right. Oh, I thought there was a hand raised. I had an audio notification. Sorry. So we will. Yeah, Eben. Eben, you had your hand raised. You can ask your question. Okay, so we'll proceed if nobody's asking a question. So let's try and build something. Eben, if your hand is raised, kindly ask your question. We can try and build a little. Let's do a little card project. All right. So I'm going to style this and say dot what dot card. And then inside my card project, I'm going to, yeah, somebody wanted to speak. Okay, so inside my card project, I'm going to create an icon. All right. So dot icon. Sorry, I'm going to bring an I element. Let me bring that here, and let me uncomment that. Sorry, let me take this out and take this out. So I have my card icon over here. Then I can bring another property and say that p dot what username. All right. So I can come here now and then say dot card. Then I'm going to give it a width of 350 pixels. Then I'm going to give it a height of 100 pixels. And then let me make it 150 pixels. A height of 150 pixels. And then let me give it a border radius of 15 pixels. Then I'm going to give it a color, a background color of, let me give it a soft white. So hash um, F0, F0, F0. And then we have some, yeah, it's a very light gray. Then what I'm gonna do is let me just try and do something on my body. That's not our focus for today. Let me give it a height of 100 viewport height. So then I'm gonna give it display of grid. We'll be looking at grid box either tomorrow or next week. And then I'm gonna give it a place content. So when you look at that, you will understand what I'm trying to do over here, right? So I have my body styled over here. Then I have a username, so I can say John Doe. Then I can do this right here. I have my card styled, right? Okay, then I can say I'll give it a padding of 20 pixels. That's pretty fine, all right. So another thing which I can do is let me change the icon I'm using so that I do something a lot more realistic. And then let me see if I'll find a nice icon, all right. So we're just designing a simple card project over here. Let me bring this here instead and then switch back to my icon page. Great. So this is not let me make this title. Then free nationwide. So I'm just changing the concept I was having earlier. And so free nationwide delivery. Then this is supposed to be a title. So let me make that H2. All right, and H2 over here as well. Then I'm coming down and I'll say, let me bring a paragraph and bring a description, something small like this, and it's rolling over because I changed the initial concept I was having. Let me not bring the height for now. So the height is going to be auto. It will adjust to the height of its content. All right. So we have that in there running. So what we can actually do is let me increase the padding of this item a little bit. Let me make the padding 50. That's too much. 30 should be fine. I think this is much better. Then let me change this to 300 and this looks a lot better in this instance, all right? Then what we can do is now our focus is on the icon, all right? So what I can do is now select it. So I'm going to say dot card and then I'll select I. And what this selector does is what look for a card element, all right? Or look for a card element, and inside that card element, look for an element that has a class of card, all right? A card class, and then look for any child of that particular element that is I. Are you getting it? Or it says, well, look for an I that is a child of what? A card class. I don't know if you guys get what I'm trying to mean. So I can actually bring another element over here, which is let me bring this over here. So you guys can see I have another icon over here, all right, which is also an eye. And if I come here and I take this off and I come here and I say padding of 30 pixels, then I give it a height of, let me make it 75 pixels and then a width of 75 as well. You realize, then let me give it a background color of red. All right, you realize that it is being applied to both of them. This is a selector. What I'm doing right now is about selectors, but I thought it would be great for us to look at it while we are doing it here. So what I want to do is I want to style only the icon that is what a child of this card. So I'm going to say dot card I, and you realize that the styling is only applying to that particular element. Yeah, somebody having a question? Michael, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Uh, Please, can there be a case where maybe you have two different icons in the for
And
your example the card um,
yeah,
the card example.
you can have
So how
you can have two icons in that particular.
okay my question is what if you want to select just one icon as in
Okay, so if you
maybe
want to
you have
select just one icon, what you can do is you can give it a particular class, or if it's very simple, maybe let me just bring up another icon over here, and let me try to make it yeah, great. This arrow right icon will be great, and let me bring it here. All right, and then wait, you realize that this is affecting it. Okay, this is affecting it, and so what we are going to do is we're going to use a pseudo class to control. We're going to use a pseudo class to control this. Either we can give this a different class, I get it. So we can call it what? Car dash icon, I getting it. And when we give it a class of car dot icon, we are now coming to start that particular class alone. And you realize that it's going to affect that alone. Another thing you can do would be to use a pseudo element, a pseudo class, like the first child, right? First child pseudo class, and that means that I that comes the very first I that comes in what the list of I's that come, the very first one that is the first child, because they are all children of cat. So that one is going to be what applied to it. I getting it. And in different use cases, there's how you go about it. Suppose you have a lot of what cards, right? And then maybe if you want to select the last one, then you can say maybe last last child, and it's going to affect just the last item. All right, maybe you have another icon. Let me just try and bring the user icon over here, and then you have the user icon over here. Now that becomes what the last child. All right, so suppose I want to style the all the items, but not the first one. I want to style all the icons, but not the first one. Then I can use another pseudo class called not. All right, I can use another pseudo class called what? The not pseudo class. Then I can say not what last child. Let me see if that works. So it's going to be applied to the first, second, but not the last. I getting it. Then I can use the first, sorry, first child, and it's going to be applied to the second, the last, and all other icons except the very first of them. And so we'll be looking at pseudo classes next week. Next week we should be done with our CSS lesson, so we'll get to see most of these things. Somebody having any other question again? Yeah, you can ask your question.
and can you also use the end child
Yes, you can also use the nth child when you want to select a particular element. So when you say nth child and you say two, then it means it's going to select the second um, child element. All right,
okay
nth child
thank
two.
you
Why is it not working? I'm coming. Something is wrong. Something wrong with my code. Nth child three. It's supposed to work. I don't know why it's not working, but uh, we'll figure that out when we are looking at pseudo elements, pseudo classes, um, to be precise. All right, so I now have my piece of code over here, and I can continue styling this. So let me take this out over here, and let me just comment this icon because I brought it there to show an example. So what I can do is give it a font size. So you can also uh, um, give icons font size. Okay, so I can give it a font size of 2 rem, and we have it a little bigger. Then when I bring back my background, you realize that something is going to happen. You realize that my icon is shifted because it has a padding issue. All right, it has a padding issue. So what you can do is let me take off the padding, and then it's going to be showing at the very top because padding is given what 0. Then let me make it auto and see what happens, and still nothing is happening. So what we can do is what let me give this a display of grid. So I just want to center the content, and then place content of center, so we can have the item centered in it. Then I can also give it a border radius of 50%, and because I want to make it what look like a perfect circle. And let me change this color to, let me make it right. Let me try and get something a little pinky. Let me make it a little soft. All right, this is not bad. Then I can now give it a color of, let me make it right there. That's too much. Let me use a darker version of a pink. And that is one thing you'd want to do when you are designing products, like you're designing websites or mobile apps. We'll be having another course on product design, which is going to be UI and UX design. I think support will be handling that class specifically. And there are some things which you have to do, like we will be looking at design in perspective. All right, so trying to use some monochromatic colors over here. Let me make this a little more of this, and well, this is not a design class, but then I just wanted to look a little better. Right, this is somehow better. So we can style our icon in several ways. We can do a whole lot of things to it. We can also give it a pseudo element and then style the pseudo element. So another thing we can do is come to card I, and then before, let me not look at that because this is I don't want us to look at pseudo elements and classes for now. Let's stay focused on the icons for now. So far, I don't know if anybody is confused. If nobody's confused, then let's look at the other font platform, which I did say we have. All right, who's that? Enoch, you can ask your question.
So I want to ask, the can we use the script tag for importing the icons than the
You
import
want it?
tag
Yeah,
we
I think
use?
there is a way of doing it using JavaScript, right? You can use JavaScript as well, but I always go with the CSS. I have never used the JavaScript to import icons. All right, so you can also
Okay,
give
sir.
that a try. I think when you look at the CDN over here, I think they have them over here, which you can give it a try. Yeah, I've never tried it, so I don't want to go into that for now. Then the other one we have is the box icons. All right, and what we can do is just like we also have their link over here. That is the CDN link. So you can come back into your project, and let me do this. Let me now comment my font awesome, right? So that our font is not showing in this particular instance because it's not existing. Then let me instead import my box icon. Oh, sorry. Okay, this is a link element. So let me take this out. Then let me import it. Great. And so we have imported our box element. And what we can do is come onto the box icons website, and just like font awesome, you can just select any item. So let me look for a track, picture of a track, and that is what we have. So you can now come here, come to fonts. Then I'm going to copy that, come into my project, wherever I want this to be. Let me comment this out, and let me have this. And when I go into my project, you realize that their icon is showing over there. All right, and this is showing because standard practice that is to use double quotes in your projects, but then box icon is using single quotes. Both of them work, but then VS Code is highlighting to give us an error. And so I think we've done that over here as well. if you should use single quotes, your web page is going to work well, right? But it's not considered standard practice. And if you should go to validate your code, you'll realize, let's go to the validator file. Those of you who haven't seen it, I think from the very beginning, we use the validator to validate our HTML files. I think my plugins I'm using in Chrome is giving me a lot of problems. So let me use a different browser. Then I try the validation again. Or let me just use incognito. All right, so I can just go to choose file. Then then I'll go to no desktop. Then I'll go to web development tutorial CSS, and then we're working with icons, right? So icons.html. Let me validate it, and it says no errors. Let me see what's happening. All right, so it's not giving us any errors for now, right? However, I let me try and see. When you this even VS Code is giving us this particular error, and then when you use single quotes, it's supposed to be flagged because this flag it's not an error. It's your web page is gonna load very well, but sometimes you get those um, notifications. It's not showing this time. That's not our primary focus, so we can just proceed. Let me change everything back to double quotes as it's supposed to be, and then have our web page running. And close this. Move back here. Great. So basically, that's it about the icons, Font Awesome and then box icons. Font Awesome has a paid plan. They have lots of icons for free, a whole lot of them. But then there are some of them that are paid. So you realize that some of the icons are pro icons, and when you bring them in your project, I'm not sure it's gonna work because we are using the free CDN. So you realize that that icon is not no. I uh, I commented my font awesome. So let me just be sure that the icon is not working. So right, so it's not working because it's a paid plugin. Sorry, it's a paid, a pro feature. So you're not gonna get that. Then the other way to go about it will be to download it into your project folder, right? And so let me just go to download font awesome. So when you go to download font awesome, you can download the pro and free for the web or for desktop. Let me just download this, and then let me just open it. So it's gonna down. It's gonna open when it's done. Before that, while we wait for that to get done, let me just comment out all the font imports we have made. All right, so that I know we are not working with them. This is also commented. All right, then let me come back to my browser. Is this not done downloading yet? Downloads folder, and let me open this. All right, so extract this. So then I'm going to desktop web development tutorial. Let me go to CSS, and then let me just dump it there for now. So back here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to link, just like I'll link to the style sheet. Then I'll go to font awesome. It's done. I can close it for now. And VS Code is trying to refresh to load the new folder we have added. So then you go to font awesome. Then I go to CSS. Then I go to all the main.css. And the main is a minified version, which you usually use that one for production purposes. All right. So let me just leave it on all.css. Then get back to my web page and see if our icons will work. And all right, we are using a paid icon over here. That's why. So let me go back to the free icon. Track. Wow, my system is beginning to jump. All right, so we have the icon loaded here for us. So you realize that we are not linking to any external resource. And then if you're someone where you have challenges with internet service, then you want to go with this option while you're developing so that you don't have internet, you can still get access to your icons and work with them. All right, so that is how you go about it. The box icons, I think they also have that feature. You can just go here and download it directly, and then you do same. I think it's on Gumroad. On Gumroad, you what they do on Gumroad is you see they give you an item, and then they give you an option. You pay how much you want, right? So this is like an open source project. It's free, but if you want to gift the guys who did it, then you want to donate something to them, you can just do it free. Put zero over here. Then you think you're gonna put in your email, then you have the file forwarded to you. I'm not gonna go ahead to do that purchase right now. I can just put in my email, get it. Then I can now download it, and then just like we did with the font, awesome, we'll have it in our project folder. It's been 30 minutes, and then I'm not. I believe that's all we need to know on icons, right? We'll be doing more of this while we are building projects. If nobody is confused, we shall move on to the very next thing we're supposed to be looking at. If anybody is confused, kindly speak up or forever hold your peace concerning icons. All right, so I believe everybody is okay with whatever we've done so far and on fonts. Sorry, on icons. We'll move on to the other item which we have planned for the day, which is CSS Flexbox. All right. Yeah, you can speak. Somebody had a hand up, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so we'll continue. And then we'll be looking at CSS Flexbox. So let me close everything and let me go back. I think I've created those files already. So we have Flexbox, and then I have this as well. Let me close this and close this. And then let me, oh, before that, let me come back here. And I just want to go with our usual fonts, Did we do that over here? So let me just copy this, close this, and then come back to our Flexbox CSS, paste this, and I save it. All right, so first of all, in my HTML file, I have a basic container, and then I have a div over here. All right, and it's got some items in it. Let me just take everything off. Then I'm coming here and I'm gonna apply some styles to my body. I just want to first of all, let me start at container. So I'll say the container, and I'm gonna give it a width of 60%. Then I'm gonna give it a height of let's say 500 pixels. Give it a border of 5 pixels solid red, and then I believe that will be it. 60%. No, let me make it 60 viewport width. All right. I think in this case it's gonna be the same thing, but I want it to be wider. So let me just position this. Right, and great. Let me make this 400. I think this looks great. Then what I want to do is I want this thing to be centered. So I'm just going to give it a display of grid. Then I'm gonna give it a place content of center, and then we have it here. But then let me give the body a background and see what's happening. Background color of blue. Background color of blue. All right, so let me give it a height. Yeah, sorry, it should be a height of let me give it 100 viewport height. Great, so now we have our height stretched over there, and then our item becomes centered, right? So What I'm going to do next is let me apply a basic styling to my child element. So I've given each of them, I have six other divs in my parent container, item 1 to 6, and each of them, all of them have the same class of child, but then they also have another class of item 1, item 2, which are very different. So I'm going to give the same styling to them all. So I'll just say child, and then I can give it a width of, let's say, 100 pixels, then a height of 100 pixels. All right, then I'm going to give it a border of 2 pixels solid blue. Great. So we have this over here. Then let me give it a little margin. No, let me not give it a margin. Let me give the parent a padding instead. A padding of what do you mean? Let me give it to the chart rather. A margin of 5 pixels. And this, right, it's great. Then I'm gonna do another thing. I'm going to give this a display of grid. And whatever I'm doing so far, it's not what we are coming to do. I just want to set some properties down for us to go with. Then I'll give it a place content of center. Great, so that the items can be centered in between them, right? So let me send this thing up here. That's down the right order, right? But then it's supposed to be, no, we are supposed to start them like in the order I had before. But I just want to send it up there because whatever we are coming to do, I don't want it to interfere. So we'll just have it there. All right. So when it comes to Flexbox, the basics of Flexbox is that everything we have over here, um, you realize that the child elements item 1 to 6 are stacked on top of each other, all right, vertically. And then what we can do is let's give this a display of flex and look at what happened. Everything is now arranged side by side. And what Flexbox does is that it creates two axes, all right? It creates two axes on our container. That's the container which we have applied the display of flex to. Very sorry, guys. It creates a horizontal axis, which is left to right, and we do call that the main axis, all right? Then another axis from top to bottom, which we call the cross axis. And so what we do is, what a flex does is it helps to arrange the things in this particular direction. We have another property, which is what the flex direction property, all right? And the flex direction property, we can set it to row, all right? And when we set it to row, nothing is happening because that's the default value for the flex direction. Then we can also have what column, and when we have column now, the items are going to be stacked on top of each other vertically instead of horizontal, all right? And then what that does is it changes our main axis, but then we'll look at flex direction column later. Let me just comment that so we go back to the default, right? Then when we have the display of flex, then there are some other attributes which are going to be unlocked, which without flex we wouldn't be able to use, right? Something like justify content, and then we can say flex start, right? Flex start, and we are not seeing any change over here. We can change it to flex end, and still nothing is happening. And this is because justify content and then a few other properties which we'll be looking at only become unlocked when we have the display of flex enabled, right? So let me just change this. And then the very first value we're going to be looking at is flex stats. And with flex stats, let me comment this again. We have our display flex changing to this. Then justify content, flex stat, nothing is happening. And what it does is that it arranges the items from what left to right, all right? And for us to see that effect, let me just comment out a few of my items. And then we see this arranged this way. So we have flex start. Then another thing we can do is what? Flex end, which is going to align the items to, it's going to start align them to the right side of our container. So that's the flex end. Then another thing which we can also look at is what? Center. and it's going to align them yeah, to the center. That is what horizontally. So I believe you guys can see the direction in which we're working. Then it can also take other values such as space between, space around. So for space around, what it does is it creates spaces between all the items over here. So we have some space here, we have it here, we have it here, we have it here, here, and here again. So that's the space around. So each of after the sizes of the elements are taken, the remaining of the sizes is what is spread to the left and right of each item. So you realize that this has some space here and has some space here, but the space here is bigger. So this has its own space and this has its own space. Then we can also have what space between, which happens to uh, push the items to the very end of the container. There is some space here because if you can remember, I applied some padding to the container. No, sorry, I applied some margins to the child, a margin of 5 pixels, so there is some space around the boxes. Then we can also have space evenly, which works just like the space around, just that this time the spaces between them and then on the other sides are they are equal. So we have the same spaces over here. And then we can actually, if we want to test that, I have a plugin here, CSS ruler. So we can actually drag over here and we know we have about a width of 44 pixels. We have 48 here, then we have another 48 here. And we are seeing 48 because the margins which we did leave are also counting. So we should take note of that. Here, the margins are not counting over here. So we're going to with that. And also, my measurements are not that accurate, but that is what happens. So for the justified content, we have flex start, which aligns the items to the very start. Then we have flex end to the end. Then we have center, which aligns them to the center. Then we also have space between. This is what that does. We have space around. This is what that does. And then we have space evenly, which does this as well. So I'm going to be dropping a link to an online game which you guys can use to master Flexbox when we are done. All right. Then we can also have another property like align items. And then align items, we can also work. What that does is it arranges the items. Let me take this off. It aligns the items to the along the vertical sorry along yes along our vertical axis, right? So when we have align items and we say flex start, nothing is happening because they are at what the very top. When I say center, then we have them in the center. Then we can also have what flex end, and then they're going to come to the very bottom. So remember that our flex direction is what row by default. That's why nothing is happening. So when we have the flex direction by row, we have our main axis, and then we have what our cross axis from top to bottom. Then we know that if we don't specify its row by default, then let's see another value for the align items, which is what the baseline. And what the baseline does is that it ensures that the contents in each of these boxes, their baselines are aligned. All right, the baseline is where, let's say we have M, right? Bring down. We have letters over here. So the very bottom part of where they touch the line, where they touch the line, those items are what are aligned properly. So let me to see that effect. Let me just do one thing over here. Let me say item one dot item one. Sorry, item one. And remember, I'm styling this particular item one because it has a class of what item one. So this is what I have selected. Item one. Then I'll give it a font size of 2 rem. Sorry, font size of 2 rem. And you realize that the items have what moved. Let me make this 3 rem. And you're going to see that this has to shift so that our line, let me bring out back my CSS ruler, my page ruler. you realize that the bottom line, no, this is not showing well. You realize the bottom line of all the contents are what are aligned properly. All right. So that is what the align item, the baseline, it does. Let me just deactivate this again, and let me take this off. And I think basically that's what we'll be looking at for the flex direction of the row. Now, what happens is that when we change our flex direction to column, our main axis is what is switched. So what was working, initially, our flex direction, when we say justify content, justify content, let me say flex start. Let me make it center. All right, center should help us see. Justify content, which we centered, it was what centered horizontally. All right. Now, when we make it column, our main axis is switched. So the justify content is now what arranged vertically. All right. So that is what happens when we change it to column. So we are not going to have it in one column. And then we can also come back here and say what flex start, and it's going to be at the top, not the left, like it was for the row. Then we can say flex end, and then we have it at the bottom, and then the center, which we already looked at, is going to make it center. You can have the space around or the space between, and everything is going to happen just like it was happening horizontally. Then when we come to our align items, so when we say align items, flex start, that's also going to happen the other way around. And we can say flex. Oh, sorry, I said self start. Flex start, and nothing is happening because that's where it's supposed to be. When we say flex end, that is moving it to the right. That is the cross axis now because we have switched the cross axis. Then we can also say center, which is now going to center it horizontally this time around. All right. Then I don't know if anybody is confused so far. If nobody is confused, then we shall proceed. Then we are going to be looking at another property, which is, let me switch this back to the default, which is row. Let me just take this off and take this off for now, right? Then let me bring this here, and then there's another property which we will be looking at, which is what the flex wrap. And for the flex wrap, by default, it is set to what? No wrap. And wrapping means when your contents get to the edge of the container, they should break and start from the next line. But by default, it is set to no wrap. So you realize that even though we have set a width of 100 pixels on the items, right now they have squeezed. All right, so we can use our CSS paper just to verify that. Let me check this item. This is 66 pixels instead of the 100 pixels. That is the width, and it's because when they don't wrap, if the items keep increasing, they have to shrink to be able to fit into the parent container. All right. So that is what happens with the flex no wrap. Now we can change this to wrap, and then what happens is that the size is going to be maintained for the items. All right. The 100 pixels is going to be maintained. So if there is not enough space to fit another element over there, then it's going to go to the next line. That is what happens. Then when we have the flex wrap, we have another property which we can use, which is what align content. And don't confuse that with what align items. Okay, let me comment that, and then let me bring the align items to center, and look at what that is doing. It is align the items to what to the center. That is what the cross axis vertically. All right, but this time around we have what align content, and we can say align content center, and it brings everything to the center, that is here and here. And this align content center only works when you have flex of wrap set to wrap. You realize that now since I've taken that off, this is not working anymore. And then also it's only going to work if you have items wrapping. So should I comment these items out and this is not wrapping, you realize that it's here, you are not going to see its effect. All right, you are not going to see its effect because when you have items that are wrapping, you notice that there is space between them. There is space. There is some space over here, And so this can help you what take care of that space and have everything centered in the middle for you. That is when you have items wrapping. All right. So we can also say flex start. All right. Sorry. We can say flex end, which is going to the bottom over here. Then we can say flex start, and then that is going over here to the very start for us. All right. Then when we switch back to our flex direction of column, then we can also say that when we do this flex, and this is also going to rotate, it's now going to the other side as well. So the flex direction of row and flex direction of column, they are opposite. The row is everything is arranged horizontally, but then the primary axis is our horizontal axis, all right? When we make it column, the primary axis is switched. Is anybody confused so far? Anything which needs clarification? You guys mean to tell me that you understand everything perfectly fine? All right. So there is also another property which we'll be looking at, and it's called the gap property. All right. So let me come back here and then let me remove my margin which I've given to the elements, and then here I can say row gap of 20 pixels, and then you realize that for each of the rows there is going to be a gap between them. All right. So there's going to be a gap of 20 pixels between each of those rows. Then I can also say what column gap, and I can say 50 pixels. And there's going to be a space, a gap of 50 pixels between each of those columns. All right. Then there is a shorthand for both of them, where you can say gap, and you can say 20 pixels, and it's going to be 20 pixels both on the column and on the rows. All right. So that's also another property which we can use. Then, since you guys are not prompting me for any questions, we'll continue. You realize that all that we are doing. Anybody having a question? Yeah, Michael.
Please, for the shorthand property of the gap, can you set like two
Two
units?
values.
Maybe, yeah, two values.
It works
Okay.
great. So when you do that, and you know that the very first value is going to be for the row, the second
Okay.
for the gap. Thank you for prompting me. I didn't cover that. So you realize that all the properties we are assigning so far for Flexbox, those properties were being applied on the parent element, that's the container. However, there are some other properties which we can apply on the child element when we are using Flexbox, all right? So first of all, let me change this back to the row. Let me change this, make this to not wrap, and then let me come back here and comment some of these items, and then I believe we're good. So I can come here and say item one, and when I style item one, I can give it a flex grow of what, and it takes a unitless value. It doesn't take one rem or anything. It's just one, not pixels, just one. All right. And what happens with a flex grow is that first of all, you realize we have assigned a width for each of the items. All right, a width of 100 pixels for each of the items. So the flex grow says that when the width of all the items are given, when the width of all are taken, that is the 100 pixels for each, the remaining space should now be given to what? To this item. That's what the flex grow does. So when any remaining space will now be calculated and then given to the item that has a flex grow of one. All right. So that we do that. Sorry, and then that's what happens over there. So if we squeeze this, you realize that all the remaining spaces. It's going to take the remaining space until there is no space for each anymore, and then that is going to shrink because their main container is shrinking, so they have to shrink to be able to fit in. Then we can also look at another property and call that one the flex shrink. All right, the flex shrink, and it also takes one unit less value of one, and what it says it only defines the proportion to which all of these items should sorry, the proportion to which this item should shrink. Are you getting it? So let me comment the width over here. And what am I doing? What am I doing? All right, let me bring that back. Then let me make it 150. Um, let me make that 150. Oh, I'm making that 150. All right, and so let me now shrink my width, and then you see something happening. Have I? All right, so I've given it a flex shrink of one, and I don't know, the effect is not being seen over here. Let me see if I can get it through this way. What a flex sorry, what a flex shrink does is it defines the proportion that this should shrink. All right, so if the container becomes smaller, then that is going to shrink a lot faster. All right, let me make it two to see if we're going to see the effect. Still not seen. No, it's worse. Okay, the error I was committing was that it has a default value of one, just like the other elements. So when you assign it to one, you're not going to see the effect because it has a default value of one. The flex grow actually has a default value of zero. So when we assign one, it worked. Right. So let me make this flex shrink of two. That means that's going to shrink two times faster than what all the other elements. All right. So you realize that it's becoming smaller, but these items are what are still intact. So when I let me just use my CSS paper, and then I check this, you realize that it's 50 pixels in width, while this is what 100 pixels. So you realize that this is now two times smaller than this item and this item combined. I believe you guys understand what the flex shrink does. The grow says grow better than them, shrinks is shrink better than them. All right, so that is what the flex grow and then the flex shrink does. Then there is another property which we can call on our child item, which is the flex basis. All right, and we can use the flex basis to override the width for the item. So you realize that here, let me make this 100. We've given this what a width of 100 pixels. So when I come here and I say flex basis 300 pixels, now that is going to be what 300 pixels. So it's going to override the width that we have assigned over here. And Flexbox is a very great way to actually plan the layout of your web pages, right? With Flexbox, you can now create containers and then you can position them side by side, all right? So when I go on to, let me visit any random website and the useless web, I wonder what will be there. Oh, let me just go on to any random website. Let me just visit this website. Okay, so they have this template which they're showing over here. I just want to use that to show an example. All right. So you realize that they have this over here. They have one column over here. Then they have another column over here. All right. And then you can use Flexbox to actually do this to plan the layout of your website. Then for something like this too, you can use Flexbox. You can also use Gridbox. You can use Float. But Gridbox and Flexbox are the new features of CSS, and they help to plan their layouts more seamlessly, like without challenges. And so, I don't know if anybody has a question. That'll be all we'll be looking at on CSS for now, on Flexbox for now. If anybody has a question, yeah, you can let your question flow.
Um, so,
Yeah.
so I want to ask, with the Flexbox, does it deal with responsiveness of web pages?
So what Flexbox does is, as we are saying, it doesn't help with responsiveness that much, all right? But then we can now use the flex basis and then the flex strings together with some CSS functions like the min max. I don't know if it's gonna work. No, it's not gonna work for this particular property. Okay, that's for Gridbox, right? So Flexbox is not going to make your website responsive in its own sense. We have to use the media queries. However, the other one, which is Gridbox, you can use Gridbox to make your website a lot more responsive. It's going to adapt to your screen size without the use of media queries. All right. And when we do Gridbox, we're going to be seeing examples of those features. All right. So for now, we'll be using Flexbox to build a website. And after we are done doing a website, we'll be looking at media queries as well. So next week we're going to be doing our media queries. We'll be finishing our CSS by next week, and so we'll be looking at all of those things. So then we build a couple of projects together live. And then you would have other projects to build. Right. I don't know if I've answered you correctly.
Yes, sir, you have.
Okay.
Thank you,
Anybody
sir.
else having any other question? All right. So now let's now build something. Let's build something really simple. All right, using CSS Flexbox. We built some project the other day. Yes, we built this project. We built this project the other day. Let me just bring it here like this. And this thing looks great. We actually used I think float to do this. All right, but then we can also use Flexbox to make it a lot better. Right. So let's now go into our code. Then let me. Oh, this is going to be very small. Now let me go to project.css, and then let's just look at how we can actually use it to plan our layouts in a lot better way. We have this, and let me take this off because we wouldn't be needing it over here. Then I can just take this all of this off because I actually don't need it. All right. So in my about section, what I can do is instead of having this over there directly, I can just cut it, then create another div. All right. So I can call that about. Then make it about text. All right. Then I'm gonna paste this. This is let me undo this so that you see what's happening. Then over here I can go to, let's say, about image. Oh, sorry, this is not CSS. Then I'm gonna save that as well. And so far, nothing is happening on our web page. So I can now paste my text over here, and everything seems to be the same because there's no content in here, right? So let me now bring a placeholder image, and we know we can get placeholder images from better placeholder. So let me make something 350 by 450. The preview 350 400. Let me make it 500. Yeah, I think this is gonna be good. Okay, so I'm going to bring in an image. All right, sorry, image, and then the source. I'll put the link over there. If you don't understand what I'm doing right now, there is a video which is titled "Resources for Web Developers," which I covered some of these things. So um, you can go look at it. I'll be putting the link in the description as well, so you can check it out. So I've added an alt attribute as well, and then when I come on my web page, you realize that this is also showing over here, and this is under it, right? So what we can do is come back to our parent element, which is the about, right? So I think I've titled the about, I've styled the about. So that is the about over here. Then I can now give it what? A display of what? Flex. And then immediately you realize that now this is arranged over here, and you've been seeing this kind of layout on websites most of the time. Then I can now, because this happens to be very close, let me just zoom out so we can see. Maybe you want to control the spacing between them, then you can say column gap. Sorry, yeah, column gap, because we have them on a row. So we can say column gap of 50 pixels, and then the space here is going to increase, well, according to how you have planned your design, all right, and how you want everything to go. Then you can also do more, maybe no, not there, inside your project, maybe the about over here. You can also have, let me reduce this text a little bit, all right. You can also have another div again. Then we can say that about features, all right. Then we can say dot feature dot f1. All right. Let me just do this, and then let me do two of them. All right. I have to do so right here, and you guys will understand what I'm trying to do in a moment. So there's features over here. I'm going down here, and then let me go to font awesome, because we have handled font awesome. So font awesome, and then before while I wait, let me now go to the font awesome CDN. I think I have copied it in icons file. So let me go to icons.css, and then link my font awesome and close it because I don't need it again for now. Go to the very top, and then let me unconnect it for it to work, and then I can now scroll back to the bottom. I just wanted to apply what we did right now. Then let me close the file tree. Where was I? Great. So I said I was going to look for font awesome icons, right? So I can look for, let's say, let me search for water. Then most of the images I'm getting here are pro icons. All right, let me just use this one, which is free. Then copy this. And by the way, there is a Visual Studio extension that can help you get those font awesome icons really fast. I think, yeah, it's font awesome gallery. I had another one which is an autocomplete, so you can just come here, you click on it, and it will copy the code so that I can go here and paste the code, right? So I can just go to I can just go to I, then I can come here to class, then I paste it over there, right? And then let me see if it's showing in my project. Yes, that particular icon is showing. This is what I copied, and then this is what I got from Visual Studio. So when you can add it so that you don't have to be going to the font awesome library to search for icons, you can just come here and does it have a okay, you can even sort it by category, which is a very at the end there's a search box at the top where you can search when you're looking for something like water or anything. You just search it and you just click on it, you put it inside the class um, property, and then you're good to go. Now I'm lost. Don't be. Let me take this out. It is here for now. Then let me close this. Close this. So I have this over here. Then I'm going to add a paragraph. Then I'm going to do some short line text. Then I'll say something like that, right. Then I'm just going to duplicate everything, paste it in the second feature. Then I'm going to, let me just do this. And then let me just pick another element and then say, let me copy this so I can now come here and replace this. And in another time, maybe when we are done with the class and everything, I'll be doing a short video on Font Awesome to explain to you why we have this fab and then all those things. For most of them are for brands and different types of icons, so we're looking at those ones as well in another video. So it's not going to be part of this web development series, right? So when I come back here, I have everything showing over here. So what I can actually do is this is what another container on its own. So about features, let me just correct the name over here. And then when I come here, I can say dot about features, right? I believe that's the class I gave that about, yeah, about that's features. Then I can give that a display of what flex as well. So you can give a child element another display of flex, which is going to act as a container for each children. A display of flex, right? And then let's go back to our own page. You realize that now we have those items laying side by side, and you probably have seen features like this on web pages. All right. Then what else can we do? No, this is not what I was. Right. So we can now get to style those elements one after the other. So I can just click on these and come back here and say feature. So that feature, then I can say I can give it a padding of 5 pixels, and I believe it's okay for each of them. Then I'll give them a border of 1 pixel, solid hash 303030, which is make it something very light. Then of course they are not supposed to touch, so I'm gonna give them a gap. And when I say gap of 50 pixels, that's gonna be too much. Let me make it 20 pixels, and yeah, I think this is pretty much okay. And then let me give increase the padding of this to 15. That should be okay. Yeah, it's great. I don't know. We let me just make this a border radius of 5 pixels. It look great so that it matches our button, and then I can go to the feature for features and then give it a margin bottom of 20 pixels so that we can have space between the buttons. So it depends on the feature you want to do. Then we can now come back and select the feature. I So I want to style the icons for the features, right? So then I can give it a font size of 1.1, 1.25 rem. It's not big enough. Let me make it 1.5. 1.5 is not bad. Right. Then you can have it that way. Then another thing we can also do is also give this a display of flex as well. That is a feature. So we can have a display of flex, and then you're gonna have your items like this. So you're gonna have the icons side by side. Then let me give it a gap of 5 pixels. and make it 10. All right, there's some gap over here. Then I can give it an align items of flex tags. So they are going to be aligned to the very top. So for now, I can say for the I can give the I don't want to give it any other style. Let me just take off the border for this particular element. Let's see if it looks better. I think this looks a lot more better. Or depending on how you want to go with your styling, how you want to apply them. Basically, that is it about Flexbox. Anybody having any question or any feature they would want us to try out? Anybody confused about anything? All right, then. If there are no questions, then we'll bring today's class to a close. Then tomorrow we'll be looking at another topic in CSS. Before we close, let's just take that. All right, so Paul, you have your hand raised.
Yeah. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I got caught up with another activity which I had to run away from you guys. I was supposed to take you guys through the Flexbox today, but then because of what happened, I couldn't take you through. So I have something to share with you guys. I have a sheet over here. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, you can share your screen for now. Let me stop sharing my screen.
This will take us just 5 minutes so that we can go for the. Let me know if you can see my screen, please.
We can see your screen. We can see it yet. Yeah, we can see it now.
Now, okay, all right. So I have this Flexbox cheat sheet over here that I normally use anytime I'm
Okay.
designing a web page. So I'll share it with the group so that anytime you want to use the Flexbox, you can use it to guide you to do your or to design your website or your web pages. So it has the Flexbox properties and how they are being used.
Well,
If
okay,
you can see.
that's very great. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so I'm going to share it with the group so that we can all have it and then use it because you can't keep all the properties in your head and
Definitely.
now that you are starting you need to use something like this to guide you anytime you are doing it. So that's it for now and I'm very sorry. I'll take you guys through the grid layout. Eric, when are we having that
I don't know if you can take it tomorrow or we make it Monday.
tomorrow? Okay, I'll check my timetable and then see if tomorrow I'll be free. Then I'll get back to you.